It's the Steve Gruber Show. Scott Bertram sitting in for Steve. Thanks for being alongside. Joining us now, Brian Jodice, who is National Press Secretary for the American Federation for Children. Federationforchildren.org is the website. Brian, thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Yeah, Scott, good to be with you. Good morning to you.
Always a pleasure to talk about the concept of school choice and the wins that we're seeing across the country. We talk it off the air. I did morning drive for a number of years, and man, 15 years ago, talking a lot about school choice. It was such a flashing red light that this could be a winning issue and a real issue that drives voters to the conservatives and the Republican camp. And now we have a growing movement across the country. Give us a lay of the land. How many
Yeah.
states across the country now have some form of school choice? And then we'll talk about the opportunity for even more to join in.
Well, you're right, Scott. And it's not that long ago. And it's been just an incredible journey to see the way in which school choice has been more embraced. This idea, right, that parents, families, regardless of their zip code, shouldn't be trapped in a school that doesn't meet their needs. And they should be freed up to be able to find that environment that will best meet the needs of their kids. And I was looking back, and it wasn't even that long ago where we had 100,000, 200,000 kids on a private school choice program across America. Today, as we sit in 2026, we believe we're going to be over 1.5 million kids on a private school choice programs, 32 states plus the District of Columbia with a private school choice program, nearly 20 of those reaching universal eligibility. So we talk about this momentum, right? This incredible wave for school choice across America. We're on the heels of yet another National School Choice Week from a week ago. It really is all gas, no brakes on this educational
Hmm.
freedom movement. And we've seen such incredible growth. Look, we're in the middle of sort of school choice enrollment right now across the country.
Yes.
Programs are
Yes.
renewing, applications are open. The nation's largest day one program opened yesterday in Texas. Over 30,000. Probably by the time we reach this morning, I wouldn't be surprised if we're nearing 50,000 applicants on day one for that new Texas program. So it's a great time, man. We're excited about it.
I think parents understand the importance of this, and I always go back. You demand you demand maximum choice on your cell phone provider and which phone you want to pick. But when it comes to
Yeah.
schools, for many years, parents said, "Well, that's our zip code. That's our neighborhood. That's where we got to end up." I moved from Illinois to Michigan. Illinois is a very low choice state, and Michigan is not in the top half of the country, probably when it comes to choice, but it's a lot better than Michigan. When you move to a place where you have a little bit of freedom, and here you can choose the next door public school, you can choose charter schools, right? There's a lot of homeschool co-ops that are operating near me. All of a sudden, you can choose the very best education for your child. And in many of those situations, again, you're just moving those tax dollars along with them to choose the school you want. Even that small amount of choice, I think, makes such a significant difference in the way parents approach the idea of education for their children.
Yeah, I think you're right, Scott. And you've just seen this ideological shift across the country. It's why more and more states have been empowered by unleashing educational freedom. My home state of North Carolina, we had about 25, 30,000 kids on a private school choice program, not but a few years ago. We're over 100,000 today because our legislature has rightfully so expanded that. And we've seen that play out in states across the country. Tennessee is looking to add more to their program. Again, that Texas program is going to be historic. You know, you've got new
Mhm.
programs onboarding in Idaho and other states. So it continues to grow because this idea really of putting these dollars in the kids' backpacks, letting it go with them to the school that best meets their needs. Look for millions of kids across the country, that traditional public school in their community might be the best fit for them, and that's great. And I'm a product of both. Right. We grew up and went to small private Catholic school when we were kids. But then I went to a really big public high school in Northern Virginia. And for me at that time, that was a good fit. And for my family, that
Mhm.
was a good fit. So there's nothing wrong with that. But it's about finding what ultimately is the best fit and letting that follow the child. And your point, great point on the phone, right? You think about we've got a smartphone. I've got one that's not but a few inches away from me at this point. I've got hundreds of apps on there. What does that signify? That's choice. And this generation of parent, especially this new generation of parent, well, they do have a lot of choice. They've got a lot of choice available to them. And so to assume that they wouldn't want that in education just doesn't match up.
Brian Jodice with us from the American Federation for Children. There is this wonderful new, thanks to Ted Cruz and others, federal scholarship tax credit inside the big beautiful bill, which is now the big beautiful law. And states can opt in, have to opt into the program. Are there any states that have opted into this program that didn't already have this base of choice inside their boundaries?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it really is what we consider, it's probably at this point still the best kept secret of the one big beautiful bill is this educational freedom tax credit. So K-12 scholarships that'll be unlocked through donor-driven support across the
Hmm.
country, which really is incredible, right? You think about this, tapping into philanthropic support, and then those taxpayers, those donors are going to be able to get a tax credit up to $1,700 directly off their federal tax bill starting in 2027. So it really is a revolutionary way to unlock K-12 education funding in America. But 27 states have already opted in. Jared Polis, we'll give him a shout out today. Jared Polis, the lone Democrat currently, governor of a state, has chosen to opt in for the education freedom tax credit. And because he said, and he's 100% right about this, he basically said, I'd have to be crazy not to do this because I'd be sending those tax dollars out of our state. I'd be sending those education dollars out of our state. I mean, take your state for Michigan, for example. Michigan not currently opted in. We believe you can get there and should get there. But if you don't, you mean to tell me that Michigan taxpayers aren't going to go find a scholarship granting organization in, I don't know, Ohio, Indiana,
Hmm.
neighboring states where they can then get that tax credit? Everybody's going to want the tax credit. Why would you not want to keep those dollars in your state? So we're very hopeful that all 50 states will opt into this. There's work to be done to get there. There are a few governors that have just flat out said no already. Wisconsin's one of those. Again, work to
Hmm.
be done to maybe course correct that. But when you really think about this, right, if governors can put partisan politics aside and really think about how this works, the law clearly states these scholarships can be used in across makes and models. It talks about private school tuition, but it also talks about tutoring and other educational services. Well, that shows us that there's a path for public school students to benefit as well. And so you really would have to be crazy not to want to participate in this program. It's a no brainer because you don't want your taxpayers sending those dollars into another state, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Now,
I
we'd be
talked
glad
to
to take them in states that have SGOs. I'm sure we'd be glad
yeah,
to take them.
talked to our local state senator here near Hillsdale and asked him the question. He said Governor Whitmer is not going to allow this, so we might need a change in Lansing before Michigan opts in. But that
Well,
also could come.
there's always that opportunity, right? You know,
That's right.
elections have
That,
consequences, and so there's always opportunities to, and
yep.
that's a great look. If you've got gubernatorial elections, you should be asking those candidates, "Hey, where
That's
do you
right.
stand on this important issue?
Big
We
issue.
want
Brian
kids in
Jodice,
our state to be able
American
to benefit
Federation
from
for
it."
Children. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks, Scott.